We're going to get more into all of that soon with some of Leonard Horowitz's research and some specific studies. But I want to shift gears a little bit to talk about one of the things that Len Horowitz does talk about, which is 432 or 444 hertz. So many people say, well, if this standardization happened, why 440? And I gave you some somewhat decent reasons. But if you're really looking into the full power of music and the mathematics of music, then 432, by my estimation, seems like a better option. The reasons being 432 is just a really magical number. And I talk about this a lot on Billy Ray's podcast, Infinite Fringe, that you can check out. But I want to mention, I don't want to repeat too much here, but I want to mention a few really cool things about 432. Let me see here. So I'm sorry, it wasn't Vivaldi that was promoting 432, it was Verdi. Okay, he was promoting 432, and one of the things that's been said around that was that mathematically 432 is consistent with the patterns of the universe vibrating with pi, the golden ratio. They point to how this pitch can be connected to everything from nautilus shells to the work of the ancients, including the construction of the Great Pyramid. And I talked about that a little bit on Billy Ray's podcast. Let me see here, the Giza pyramid base, if you multiply that by 43,200, which is 432 with two zeros, then it equals the circumference of the Earth. And then when you take the Great Giza height and you multiply it by 43,200, you get the polar radius of the Earth. So using this 432 derivative, you get a direct connection between the pyramid and the knowledge of the exact size of the Earth, which is incredible. Another thing that's amazing about it is it has these factors of 8. And 8 is the Schumann resonance of the Earth. This is where it rests. This is the hertz, the cycles per second of our Earth. And it also is the alpha waves on our human brain. Okay, alpha waves are when we're in a state of wakeful relaxation. It can lead to increased mental clarity and focus, making it easier to stay on track and be productive throughout the day. So this is where they're saying, like, if you listen to 432 hertz music, then you're getting in more of an optimal place to do work and to be creative and to it's a state that for many people it's difficult to get in these days with all of the distraction and everything going on. So another interesting thing is another factor of 432 is 16, and humans tend to vibrate between 16 and 32 hertz, which is interesting. Now, there's other claims. So there's facts, there's numbers, and then there's claims, right? And I want to kind of present all of them because I think it's when we're dealing with trying to get outside of the matrix or outside of this box we've been put in that we're not really allowed to get outside of, which is a lot of experimenting, and we have to use our imaginations a little bit, and we have to use our subjective experiences. So I think it does matter to hear what some people's opinions are that have spent time with this and thought, even if they don't have, the study to prove it. So one idea is that it affects different frequencies, like different frequencies connect to different chakras in our body. So 440 is more in the third eye and the thinking, while 432 is more in the heart and the feeling. And so 432 music increases the spiritual development of the listener, and it kind of has more of the ability to keep you connected with your soul or your spiritual identity, which is definitely one of the interesting things of our modern society, and something I would say has happened in the last 80 years, and that's being completely 100% identified with the material world. That just wasn't the case 100 years ago and beyond. For most of human existence, it's been a balance between the physical and the spiritual, just as a factor of everyday life. But somehow in the last 80 years, it's like, oh no, that's fantasy, or you can kind of think of it abstractly but don't really identify. The only thing that's real is the five senses, and this has also been probably a byproduct of scientism. So our music would then also maybe be creating that intellectual space as opposed to getting more into your feeling, emotional, and spiritual side. Can't prove that, but I think it's interesting. Now there is a study. you might be saying, well, what about real studies? Well, there hasn't honestly been that many studies. 440 has been so dominant that it hasn't even been questioned. But some of the studies that have been done, one I found was by Maria Renaud, and she said that people found music played at 440 hertz uncomfortable, oppressive, irritating, and aggressive, and narrow-minded. And these same subjects found that music played at 432 was correct, complete, peaceful, clear, pleasing, sun-like, like the sun. So that was one of the more straightforward studies. But I would also say some of these studies could be skewed by the fact that, like I told you, it's what is repeated over and over again. So if you've always heard 440, then 432 might actually sound strange or feel strange to you, and you might react more to what's familiar. But online, there's tons of different videos that you can take where it's like, listen to this 432 version and listen to this 440 version. And it's fun. I would recommend that you kind of try that a little bit to see for yourself. But I'm a little bit skeptical because you're coming through the digital medium. And I do believe there's a lot of standardization that is happening within that digital medium. Now, that doesn't mean specifically that it would retune it to 440, though I'm doing research to see if that would be the case. But it is probably the case that there's other things embedded in it that would make it not a pure comparison. Things that maybe 432 doesn't seem that different from 440, and maybe that's why, right? That hearing the two on a stringed instrument in a small room, you might feel the effects more. There's also the question of the desensitizing of us and whether or not we really have the ability to feel these differences. Hearing is one thing, and I think you would hear it, or it'd be interesting to see if you're able to hear it. 432 can definitely sound flatter. And it's interesting because I listened to a version online, and my immediate reaction was I liked the 440 better, to be honest with you. But the more I listened to it, the more my body liked the 432. That was my reaction. So you can listen to it for yourself. But I'm a very sensitive person, which is part of the reason these topics make sense to me. I know, and I've had students that don't feel it. They don't even really feel the difference between a digital piano and a real piano, which for me is night and day. The difference between playing on it with acoustic strings, really vibrating, versus a digital signal is like two different worlds, two different musics. But some of my students, they really don't even feel it, and they do tend to be more of the logic-oriented students. So there's also the question of the subjectiveness of how sensitive the listener is. So what I did to sort of sidestep this was I tuned my piano to 432. It ended up to be quite difficult to do because the piano tuner I used, which goes by ear, he was trained by his father. He's been tuning for over 40 years and impeccable at his craft. And he had agreed to do it, but when he showed up, he had all these weird reactions and resistance and got nervous about doing it for me. And part of it was, and he explained to me later, it was like getting out of a rut. He had only ever done 440 and he didn't feel quite equipped, like he was really going to be able to do it. So there is some question as to how pure my 432 was. And definitely there's question now that it's been over a month. I definitely don't think it's held very well. And that was part of his argument too, that our instruments have been designed to hold 440. And so tuning them to 432 or going up 444 might be a little bit better. It might not hold it well because it's the bending of the board. There's mechanics of the actual instrument. Now, I don't play guitar, but I'm actually picking it back up again because I do believe it'd be easier to tune your guitar to 432 and really experiment more. But what I did was that very first night played a bunch of songs on my 432 piano to see what my reaction was. And I want to play one of them for you now. This is the original Let It All Crumble, which I talked about extensively as being a song about courage and calm in the middle of a storm. I really don't tend to play it out that much, or I just haven't. I think I've only played it with my trio one time, and I've only played it out live a few times. But I've been really playing it a lot more just by myself. And so what I'm about to play is a solo version of me playing my original Let It All Crumble on my newly tuned 432 hertz piano. Watching it crumble at fall to the ground. The ground shakes and rumbles and I stumble all around. I never thought I would be the one to say, but I'm sure glad it all turned out this way. Nothing around me sparkles to my heart dances tonight. Nothing around me shines to my mind sees the light. Nobody's saying that everything will be alright, but our hearts can feel the change, the truth we will no longer fight. Let it all crumble, let it all fall. This sick illusion is so bearing on me all. Lies, lies, and more lies, lure the tired to sleep. Waking isn't easy, the deception makes you weak. Look at the darkness, and the darkness turns to light. Love your oppressors. There's a need to fight. Love those who wronged you, and be free from trying to be right. You must unlock your love, let your soul take flight. Nothing around me sparkles to my heart dances tonight. Nobody is saying that everything will be alright, but our hearts can feel the change, the truth we will no longer fight. Oh, 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 oh. We will no longer fight. Let it all crumble, let it all fall. Okay, so that was it. How was it for you? It's still coming through the digital medium, but it's from a 432 tuned piano. Now, I can tell you from my experience when I played it, it was incredible. I have always loved when I get chills from music or can start to feel almost like my light body or, my etheric body or something beyond myself. It's like I just become electric, alive. It feels so good. Music, because of my sensitivity, I guess, I've always been able to feel that. And that's one of my favorite parts about music. And I felt that when I was playing this. And it wasn't just that, it was my hands. Sometimes I feel blocks in my hands. Sometimes my hands won't move fast enough, or, I just feel like I have a spirit, an inspiration coming through, but my hands can't quite handle it, right? And that's the big training part of a musician is how do you train your hands to be able to purely express what you hear and feel on the inside. And this was one of those moments where it was flowing through my hands so easily, and my hands felt so good. They just felt good. On top of that, I was hearing these incredible like harmonics, which harmonics are whenever you play a note, you have these reverberations. Like you have like the octave, and you have like then like the third above that. You have these sort of echoes, and they're quieter than the actual pitch, but they're just a result of striking that note and these harmonics that get hit at the same time. And for some reason, those harmonics were louder, and they were almost like rubbing up against each other in an interesting way as I was moving from note to note. And it was creating a violin sound, a sustained violin sound that was just amazing. So for me, this particular song was very different, playing it on for 432. Voice wise, I think it was a little bit trickier for me to sing, I think, because I am so used to 440. That normally, I mean, I'm an alto, and normally I love singing lower. Low is my jam, but it almost felt like the pitch, was a little bit pitchy trying to hit that. If you want to check out this for yourself, I set this particular song to some empowering images, some interesting images to sort of use symbol and music to fight in this frequency war. If this is the case, that music is being used against us, which I would argue that's the case. Now, whether it's coming from the Nazis or not, I can't say. Who it's coming from, I couldn't say exactly, but I would argue that there's enough evidence that music is being used against people at this point, that I want to take it back and go the other way, right? To neutralize it and to send out empowering vibes. So this is one of the videos that I put out, and I try to put these videos out every Friday on my YouTube channel. If you want to check that out under my name, Lyndol Descant. And I'll say more about that at the end, but yeah, that's 432. And I'll be doing more next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about why 432, why get into a little bit more of the studies and what people are saying about it, and also a little bit more of how 440 itself is being shown to be dissonant.